So who has come to give away this prize?
We do.
Are you sure this is a good idea?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Have you met this guy? He cleans up okay, but he's a little scruffy. That's all right?
That's all good.
All right, if it's okay with them, go ahead. You may receive your prize. You may be seated, everyone. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to celebrate the complete realization of an anime nerd fantasy. See, it was 2.5 years ago that Viktoria, Ewing, and Brian Newell began their adventure in the most romantic of places, a Taekwondo class. After all, what better way to show someone your blossoming love for them than by beating the snot out of them in a sparring contest? Viktoria was new and enthusiastic to learn the sport. And Brian was basically teaching the class that day. And it went smoothly enough until such a time as they had to split up into groups for sparring at the end. Now perhaps it was random chance, or perhaps it was a machine of the gods, but these two ended up in the same group together. The match was an absolute massacre. Grandmaster Brian over here kicked and punched his way to a 44-4 victory, leaving poor white belt Viktoria beaten, bruised, and feeling a little run over. But luckily, there was nothing the gift of gab could not fix, because after that class, the two of them stood around and literally talked for hours. Brian, who had never missed a college class in his life, decided to skip his evening classes. Now, the conversation was intense, it was electrifying, and neither of them could pull themselves away. And it was during that conversation that they decided to go to an anime party together. And that night, they had such a great time taking in episodes of Playmore, they decided to hang out more. Brian found himself driving down to Chillicothe every weekend to be with her. And along the way, they ended up becoming really good friends. Brian also managed to entrench himself in Viktoria's friend group, so it was harder to get rid of him. So no distance, it seemed, could keep these two apart. But while they definitely felt strongly for one another, neither of them was quite ready for a dedicated long-term relationship. And as all young people do, the two of them had some maturing to do. So they took some time apart. But like a bad virus, Brian just wouldn't stay away. After Viktoria's trip to Germany, Brian decided that he was ready to try something a bit more serious with her. So he asked her out, officially. And she said no. Undaunted, he asked again later that week, and she said no again. So like an annoying child who just really wants a cookie, he kept asking until she finally gave in. After the 17th attempt to ask her out, he had finally emotionally worn her down so much that she acquiesced. But then they just basically picked up right where they left off. They developed strange and painful new ways to show their affection for one another, and they fell into an otherwise comfortable relationship. And then Brian decided it was time to propose. The plan was simple and elegant, like a V-neck dress. He was going to get up early and make a romantic breakfast in bed, and include the ring box as part of the layout. But also like a V-neck dress, sometimes things fall out. So this was actually more of a train wreck. First of all, he overslept and she woke up first. But after he got up an hour later, he sent her back to bed to try and recover his dignity. Try and recover his plan. But then he got downstairs to try and actually make breakfast. And he realized he had never made hash browns before in his life. And already being flustered from his late start, Ryan began swearing violently at the potatoes. He worked himself into such a tizzy that he started dropping pots and pans and slamming plates down on the counter. And all the while this is going on, poor Victoria is upstairs in bed wondering if somehow Ryan has managed to get into a fist fight with himself. But finally, after much toil, a little blood, and at least one emotional breakdown, he managed to bring breakfast in bed to his wonderful and deserving girlfriend. His original proposal idea was clearly in shambles, but gosh darn it, he was gonna make it happen. So he pretended to drop her fork on the ground, so that when he came back up, he could just pull out the ring, very suave. But Victoria was really hungry. So after he dropped the fork, she just stared at him, waiting impatiently for a fork to meet her hand so she could chow down. She wouldn't look away. So Brian just finally said F it and pulled out the ring, and now we're here. Now these two, as you all know, have become an unstoppable force. Brian has grown to love Victoria for her sense of humor, her amazing smile, and the wonderful compassion and kindness that she shows everyone around her. And Victoria has grown to love Brian for his emotional and physical strength when he's not making breakfast, his intelligence, his stupid jokes, and the never-ending well of patience that he has for her antics. Now, details aside, these two enjoy being together and have great times whenever they are together. They are comedians and dramatists who have grown into being storytellers of a sort. And there is nothing that these two would rather do than to create new stories with each other. Life is their adventure, and both they, and I'm sure everyone here, cannot wait to see what happens next. So let's move on and see if we can't find out together. Now, like the first session of any good Dungeons & Dragons campaign, we will begin tonight by allowing our player characters to interact with one another. And by this, I mean we will begin with the vows. But also like any good Dungeons & Dragons campaign, it would not be fair to choose who gets to go first without an initiative roll. So before we get to hear their deepest, most heartfelt and ooey-gooey feelings for one another, we're gonna roll it.
Yay.
Jimmy, grab his bag.
The table is yours. Knock. Failure.
It's beginning to look a lot like the breakfast.
Slow words. That's powerhouse.
We'll get it, I promise. All right. 7 wins.
Yay!
Happy can look. Alright. Happiness can be found, even in the darkest of times, if one only remembers to turn on the light. Brian, you have lit up every part of my life. I'm not crying, I've got sweat. We built our relationship and nurtured it. I chose you for incessantly asking me out and having a high constitution. No matter what, you never give up on me. It's easy to understand why I didn't fall in love with you. Falling is painful. Trust me, I know. Better still, my love grew, and through our struggles we became stronger. You're the love of my life, due to your high charisma. You know how to make me smile every day and show what happiness is. The first time we met, I felt accepted and heard. I know you are highly intelligent because you still make me feel that way. Through your wisdom, you taught me to be more patient, understanding, and forgiving. Yes, I'm finally forgiving you for eating my curly fry. I understand! It was the curliest one. Whenever I'm down, you maintain a wide stance and use your strength to lift me up. You're my anchor. No matter what storms we weather, your stability sees us through. Yet you have just enough dexterity to dodge high-velocity pillows, deal with my ever-changing moods, follow my witty banner, and general silliness. May the odds be ever in your favor, as I strive to make you as happy as you've made me. Brian David Newell, I'm honored to take your name and become your wife. I love you.
You have to follow that.